Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my Decoden phone case. I'm going to be walking you guys through how I make my resin pieces and how I assemble everything. Here I am showing you guys the type of resin that I use, which is the amazing clear cast resin from Michaels. I also use some very small Dixie cups, some popsicle sticks, and here I am showing you guys the different kinds of molds that I will be using in this video. Here I am showing you guys the different kinds of things that you can put inside your resin pieces. Here I have some different colors and sized beads, as well as some different glitters. I have some heart glitters, some star glitters, chunky glitters, and I also have some mica powdered pigments. As you can see, I have the pink one over there. Here I am pouring part A resin into its own cap. I like to measure out my resin this way because each bottle has its own cap, which are the same size, and it just ensures that I get the correct amount of resin into the cup because it has to be equal parts. So I usually fill the cap up all the way to the top and then pour it into my Dixie cup using a popsicle stick to scrape out all the sides to just make sure that I get all the resin into the cup. Here I am pouring side B also into the cap. Pouring it into the cap just ensures me that both sides are equal parts. Here I am using the same popsicle stick that I used before in order to scrape out all the sides and really get out all of the resin. Once your part A and part B resin are thoroughly mixed, you can go ahead and start coloring your resin, which you can either choose to use acrylic paint or some mica powders. So here I am using black acrylic paint to color my resin. As you can see, I am mixing it in there very well to also mix the resin just to make sure both parts are equally mixed. I will also be adding some chunky glitter, as you can see here. I am also adding some very fine, small white glitter. And I'm mixing all of the components together. So here's what my resin looks like after everything has been mixed. And now I'm going to prepare to pour my resin by giving it one last stir. And I use the popsicle stick to guide the resin into the small crevices of the molds. Especially this bat mold, as you can see, there's a lot of pointy parts and small parts, so using the popsicle stick helps to get the resin into the very small spaces. Here is a side-by-side view of me pouring the resin. I have a top view for you guys and also a more close-up side view so that way you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Please keep in mind that this part of the video is normal speed, so if you do not want to watch me pour all of my resin into my molds, please go ahead and skip ahead onto the demolding part of the video.
And we are the dreamers of dreams.
So for the next part of the video, which is actually decorating the phone case, you're going to need a phone case, some more Dixie cups, popsicle sticks, silicone, which you can find at any hardware store. Make sure that it is not fast drying and that it is clear and 100% silicone. In order to use the silicone, you're going to need one of these guns, which you can also find at a hardware store. You will need some gloves, some Ziploc bags or piping bags, and a piping tip, which both of those things you can find in the baking section, and optionally you will need napkins. So the first part of decodenting a phone case is to make sure the phone case's surface is not smooth. So this means that you want to either use a X-Acto knife or sandpaper to go ahead and roughen the surface, so that way the silicone will stick to the surface better and won't peel up as easily. So before we start decodenting, we need to assemble our bag. So either use your Ziploc bag or your piping bag, and we are going to cut a slit into one of the corners of the bag. Through this slit, you're going to slip in your piping tip, and we are going to secure it to the bag using some tape. Put this to the side, and then we are going to begin preparing our silicone. So first, get out your Dixie cup, and we are going to use the silicone and the piping gun, and we are going to pipe silicone all the way up to fill up the Dixie cup. So depending on the size of the surface that you are trying to decoden will depend on how much silicone that you will need to pipe out, so just keep that in mind. Once you have your desired amount of silicone, we are going to color it. So in this case, I will be using some oil paints because oil paints don't stiffen up the silicone as fast as if you would use acrylic paints. So I suggest you either use oil paints or some pigments. So in this case, I'm going to be using some red and yellow oil paint in order to create an orange color because I'm going for a Halloween theme here. Here I am putting more yellow than red to create the orange color, and I am just mixing it in. And as I'm mixing it in, I'm going to add some glitter as well. So while you're mixing it in this cup, you just want to lift it up to make sure you're getting all of the silicone colored, and then push it back down. And just keep bringing the silicone from the bottom up and then pushing it back down so you make sure you're coloring all of it. So now that that is done, we are going to place our bag that we prepared over a separate cup, a bigger cup, just so we can open it up so that way it's easier to pour the silicone into. So go ahead and pour your silicone, and then we are going to close it up and twist up the end and push the silicone towards the piping tip inside of the bag. Since I am using a Ziploc bag, these tend to tear and break while piping, so I'm going to use some clear plastic tape to go ahead and secure the Ziploc bag so that way I can prevent this from happening. If you are new to piping, basically you want to have one hand at the front towards the tip in order to steer it and guide it, and then you want to have one hand at the back, which is going to pump the silicone forward towards the tip. Place the tip on the surface where you want your silicone to be released, and squeeze your backhand in order to squeeze the silicone out forward. Drag your hand along the length of the phone case, making continuous pumps. So here I am covering the whole phone case with the orange silicone, and then once you have completed that, you can go ahead and start placing on your resin pieces. So beforehand, just make sure that you arrange your resin pieces and you know how you want them to look on your phone case, so that way when you do have your silicone on there, it's easy to just place them and to just continue on instead of having to decide where you want to put them. So here's my finished Decoden phone case. Of course, I said it was Halloween theme, and that is why it is black and orange. So if you guys are interested in maybe purchasing one of these phone cases, you can go ahead and visit my website, which I will have linked in the description down below. You can either request your own phone case, or you can go ahead and buy this one that I made here. I hope you guys had fun and maybe learned something new, or hopefully you try decodenting yourself, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!